Should students show their faces on TikTok and other social media? These days, more and more students film study tips, club activities, or dance routines and upload them to TikTok with their faces fully visible. Some see it as a chance to build confidence and future opportunities, while others worry about digital tattoos, privacy, and bullying. Should students be encouraged to show their faces when posting on social media, or is it safer to keep their identity hidden? In this video, we run a 10-round, 20-turn debate where both sides argue on completely equal footing. Which side are you on? Tell us in the comments. Now, let's get started.
I believe there is great value in students showing their faces and posting on platforms like TikTok. In reality, many companies and individuals are increasing their visibility through social media and gaining opportunities for jobs or further education from there. Whether it is dance, study tips, or showcasing their own creations, posting with their faces helps viewers develop trust in this specific person, which creates a different kind of influence than an anonymous account. From a young age, gaining experience in connecting with society in one's own words is an extremely valuable practical training ground for presentation skills and self-expression.
However, what you lose in exchange for that influence is also enormous. Once a face-revealing post goes online, it can never be completely erased. Screenshots and re-uploads mean it may remain semi-permanently. There have been reported cases where inappropriate videos or extreme remarks made impulsively as a minor were dug up years later during job hunting or exams for teachers and public servants, resulting in job offers being withdrawn or candidates quietly being passed over. Students' values can still change dramatically, and actively encouraging them to leave a digital tattoo that will never disappear for the rest of their lives is extremely dangerous.
It is true that digital tattoos are a serious issue, but using that to conclude face-revealing posts are bad is not realistic. In the future, almost every profession will assume some level of online communication and public posting, so it is actually more rational to let students practice posting while learning risk management. Even when using real names and faces, if they follow laws and school rules, avoid slander and discriminatory expressions, and develop the habit of checking sources, the process itself functions as information literacy education. Learning how to post appropriately under their real identity can become a powerful asset later in life.
I understand the idea of using posting as literacy education, but in reality, not everyone can draw a calm, rational line. Especially among junior and senior high school students and early undergraduates, there are countless cases where they post risky content driven by the mood of the moment or peer pressure. There have been incidents where videos showing school uniforms or school names spread widely and triggered a flood of complaints against the entire school. Student behavior can easily drag in families, schools, and part-time workplaces. Before students fully grasp these risks, saying, "Go ahead and post with your face," is, in my view, quite irresponsible.
At the same time, the reality is that both public education and private companies already treat social media-based PR and information sharing as normal. Some universities use student influencers to introduce open campus events, and some high school students gain attention by posting about their experiences in science Olympiads or competitions on TikTok. If we uniformly stop even these positive activities from being shared with faces visible, we are depriving excellent efforts of the opportunity to reach society. What truly matters is the content and the rules around it, not the mere fact that a face is shown.
However, those positive examples are only a small set of success stories.
In many other cases, as students chase views and follower counts, they drift toward more provocative material and end up creating prank or nuisance videos that become social problems. Even if they think, I won because I went viral, society may doubt their character and morals, and there are cases where old videos are dug up years later, forcing them to apologize publicly. Student years are meant for building foundations in academics, club activities, and basic human relationships, and there is a coherent argument that we should not place them in an environment that constantly stokes their need for attention.
The risk of an excessive need for approval certainly exists, but that risk is not unique to face-revealing posts. Anonymous accounts can also generate extreme content. And in fact, attaching one's real face can sometimes make people more self-restrained because it is tied to their social identity. Creating videos also allows students to learn shooting, editing, structuring, and basic marketing skills. And there are real cases of people entering video production or advertising fields based on these skills. Outside of school, gaining numbers through their own efforts and getting direct feedback from viewers is a form of practical learning that textbooks can never fully provide.
On the other hand, we cannot ignore how strongly face-revealing posts push students to focus on appearance-based evaluation. On TikTok, the algorithm tends to emphasize looks and vibe, which naturally leads to comments about appearance, comparison with others, and sexual objectification. If students are constantly forced to think about how they look on camera from a young age, experts have warned that their self-esteem may become tied to followers and view counts, increasing the risk of body image issues and even eating disorders. From an educational perspective, building environments where students can develop self-efficacy through non-face-revealing posts or offline activities should arguably be a higher priority.
The pressure related to appearance is serious, but that is precisely why it is meaningful for a diverse range of students to post with their faces visible. When not only model-like bodies, but ordinary students appear on screen sharing their studies, hobbies, experiences with disabilities, or minority identities, it can broaden understanding of diversity. Showing their faces allows their stories to be received as those of a real, specific person, which can encourage others in similar situations. As society increasingly values diversity, it is something we should welcome when ordinary students show their faces and raise their voices in public spaces.
I do not deny the value of sharing diverse experiences, but I question whether we should place that burden on underage individuals. When someone speaks about their minority experience with their face showing, some people will empathize, but they can also become targets of discriminatory comments, malicious secondary creations, and even bullying at school. Systems for handling hate speech and slander are still underdeveloped in both law and platform design, and in reality, the burden on victims remains extremely heavy. Even adults can become mentally ill in such environments, so I cannot support the idea of actively pushing students into that space.
It is true that platforms are still poorly maintained in many ways, but that is exactly why young people's voices are needed as agents of change. Criticism of sexually exploitative videos and discriminatory posts has often spread from young users' posts and forced companies or schools to change their responses. Only those who are actually inside classrooms and clubs can communicate the sense of unfairness or the problems of education from the inside. When they show their faces and speak responsibly, their opinions are more likely to be treated as serious arguments that can move society, rather than dismissed as anonymous complaining.
The phrase, agents of social change, sounds admirable, But in reality, the ones who bear the brunt of flame wars and slander are students themselves, who are still economically and legally vulnerable. Adult activists or journalists can at least rely on organizations and experts for support while they continue their work, but individual students usually lack such defensive resources. Schools may also intervene in what they post to avoid trouble, which can easily lead to new restrictions on their freedom of expression. We should not focus only on the idealistic storyline of social change while glossing over the heavy burden that falls on students on the ground.
Even so, hiring and admissions today increasingly emphasize concretely showing what you have done. Face-revealing social media posts can work as such a portfolio. For example, a student aiming to become an educator who consistently uploads their own explanatory videos can demonstrate their teaching ability and communication skills in a very concrete way. Given that recruiters and companies sometimes check social media anyway, it can be a rational strategy to proactively present healthy and useful content. By not staying anonymous and showing their faces, students can also convey their personality and atmosphere, which is a major advantage.
At the same time, the fact that recruiters look at social media is exactly what makes face-revealing posts a double-edged sword. Even when a student believes they are posting seriously, their visible stance on politics, religion, or social issues can lead recruiters to label them as difficult or not a cultural fit. In principle, nobody should suffer disadvantages because of their beliefs, but there is no guarantee that hiring processes are always perfectly fair. In this reality, students are also voluntarily handing over extra information that can be used against them. Under such conditions, I think it is too risky to recommend as a general rule that students should reveal their faces and post actively.
I do not deny that making one's beliefs visible can be risky, but the flip side is that it can help students identify organizations that actually fit them. If they are already expressing their values in public, it can reduce the chance of joining an organization that secretly dislikes those values and then suffering later. Also, there is no requirement that students discuss political or divisive topics. They can post face-revealing content about relatively neutral themes, such as studying, sports, making things, or community activities. Rather than treating all face-revealing posts as pure risk, I believe they can be operated safely enough depending on how they are designed.
I agree that good design can reduce risk, but the problem is that this design responsibility is effectively being dumped onto students themselves. Even media professionals cannot completely avoid flame wars, yet we are asking students with incomplete media literacy to draw the line and manage it yourself, while making them bear all the responsibility. On top of that, students have no control over algorithm changes or platform specification updates, and sometimes a video suddenly gets picked up by the recommendation system and spreads far beyond what they intended. Considering this unpredictability, I think that at least while they are still students, it is more realistic to encourage posting without faces or real names rather than urging them to reveal their faces.
That said, many students already appear with their faces visible in posted videos of club competitions and school festivals, shared both on official school accounts and personal ones. Completely denying this would be far removed from reality. Rather than framing the issue as a simple matter of allowing or banning face reveals, it would be more constructive for parents, schools, and platforms to work together to create guidelines and build systems that allow quick consultation, deletion, and even legal action when dangerous posts appear. Instead of treating students only as people who must be protected, we should also raise them as responsible communicators, which in the long run will improve the level of literacy across society.
It is precisely because we are in this transitional period before guidelines and support systems are fully in place that I argue for caution. At present, many schools have social media policies that exist mainly on paper, and in practice, they often only respond in an ad hoc manner after trouble occurs. Parents' understanding of the risks also varies widely, and in some families, there's not even a shared view of what constitutes danger. In this situation, saying let them learn through face-revealing posts is effectively treating students as experimental subjects. At least until systems and support are more firmly established, I believe it is more reasonable for the education sector to take a cautious stance and restrict face-revealing posts rather than encouraging them.
In the end, I do not take the position that students must never post face-revealing content, but rather that they should actively use it under certain conditions. Specifically with parental consent, school or advisor confirmation, and strict rules such as not casually exposing personal information, location data, or other people's faces, if posts are limited to content related to learning, creation, or social participation, I believe the benefits can be very large. On globally open platforms, gaining experience from a young age in competing with one's own words and face can be some of the best possible training for building a future career and for developing as engaged citizens.
By contrast, I maintain that we should not actively encourage students to post face-revealing content. No matter how many conditions and rules we put in place, there will always remain risks such as unpredictable spread, malicious secondary use, long-term digital tattoos, and psychological harm. Underage individuals do not fully understand these risks and lack the legal and economic means to defend themselves. So pushing them forward with rhetoric about training and opportunity feels more like a convenience for adults than anything else. There is already plenty that students can learn and express without revealing their faces. And I do not think we can justify a situation where individual students are forced to bear such risks, while society fails to build the safety nets it should provide.
This concludes our 10-round debate on whether students should show their faces on TikTok and other social media. Do you think students should be encouraged to post with their faces visible, or is it safer for them to stay anonymous online? Share your thoughts and experiences about social media and face reveals in the comments.